Good afternoon, everybody. It is Steve Lookner with Agenda Free TV. We are coming here live to discuss the speculation about why U.S. warships have been deployed near Venezuela. I want to start this stream by being extremely clear. I have seen many experts say there is no chance the U.S. will invade Venezuela. That doesn't mean they won't. But certainly, I would say the weight of expert opinion is that there's not going to be a military intervention in Venezuela. But there's a lot of speculation about this. So I figured we'd come on the air and cover it. There's been talk about this for weeks now, but as these ships get into place, figured we'd do a stream on it. We hadn't covered it yet. And we're going to take some of your comments and questions on the air. I got some video to show you too. So let's get into it. Might the U.S. invade Venezuela? That'd be a big deal. Or launch some other sort of attack. Shiny Slowbro says it's a special military operation. One of our viewers said Caracas saw a blackout. There's blackouts all the time in Venezuela. That's been going on for years. Blackouts in Venezuela. Okay, so let's get into it. And thanks to our moderators for being here. We have Janet B. And she is moderating over there on YouTube. Thank you so much. Over on Twitch, thanks to our moderators there, like Bastion Girl and Good Luck Duck. Thank you. Thanks to Linda Belk, Larry, and Misha who moderate for us on X. And Facebook is all wonky again. Surprise, surprise. Facebook is all weird again. I can't even see the Facebook chat right now because it's acting weird. Nope. It's awful. It's always something with them. Well, thanks to our Facebook moderators. I'll try to pull up the chat again in a little bit. Oh, I might have been able to figure it out. There it is. Shannon Davis Hughes is moderating over there. Thank you. Kay Lowry, Body, Margaret Riley. Vince Seda thinks it's no invasion, just a distraction. Hey, thanks to Wheat Supreme, who thinks it's about oil and ocean borders. Thanks to Dean R. for being a member for 19 months. Thanks, Dean. Thanks, Mitchell Pilot. Thank you. Who thinks the U.S. is really trying to get opposition forces to stage a coup. Thank you to PZ Papa Zulu, who thinks it's about stopping the drug flow and gathering intelligence. I mean, the U.S., some U.S. government officials have said it's about stopping the drug flow or slowing it. That's the given reason. The debate is whether there's some other reason. Thanks, PZ Papa Zulu. Thanks to Shaf for the memberships. That's so nice of you, Shaf. Also, Jersey, Texas. Okay, let's start talking about this. Hey, look at this. U.S. builds up forces in Caribbean as officials, experts ask why. I should show you a map, too. When we say the Caribbean Sea, it'd be good if I had a map posted here. Let me get a map posted for you guys. Hang on, that'll make life easier. Okay, look. Hey, look, it's Google Maps. Hang on a second here. What am I? Where is that? Okay, so let's zoom in. Let's zoom in. I got to get this centered right. There we go. So there's Venezuela. So you see it says Caribbean Sea. So we're talking about the southern, see how it says Caribbean Sea? So the southern Caribbean Sea is near Venezuela. See U.S. up here, Venezuela here, Caribbean Sea in here. A large buildup of U.S. naval forces in and around the southern Caribbean has officials in Caracas and experts in the U.S. asking, is the move aimed at combating drug cartels, as the Trump administration has suggested, or is it for something else entirely? There you go. That's from Reuters. 7 U.S. warships, along with 1 nuclear-powered fast attack submarine, are either in the region or are expected to be there soon, bringing along more than 4,500 sailors and Marines. U.S. President Trump has said combating drug cartels is a central goal for his administration, and U.S. officials have told Reuters that the military efforts aim to address threats from those cartels. Stephen Miller, Deputy White House Chief of Staff, Friday said the military buildup was aimed to combat and dismantle drug trafficking organizations, criminal cartels, and these foreign terrorist organizations in our hemisphere. But it is unclear exactly how exactly the U.S. military presence would disrupt the drug trade. Some articles talk about how it's that the choice of some articles talk about that the choice of ships and forces seems strange for an anti-drug mission. Oh, hold on a second here. And then we'll keep going. Hold on, hold on, hold on. I want to say thanks to also KJ Aaron, our new member, and Sean TV, our great supporter of the channel, Sean TV. Thank you, Sean. You can see here it says it is unclear how the U.S. military presence would disrupt the drug trade. I'm going to show you some videos soon of some of the U.S. ships heading there. Among other things, so again, Reuters says we have 7 U.S. warships along with 1 nuclear-powered fast attack submarine either in the region or expected to be there soon, bringing along more than 4,500 sailors and Marines. It is unclear how the U.S. military presence would disrupt the drug trade. Among other things, most of the seaborne drug trade travels to the United States via the Pacific Ocean, not the Atlantic, where the U.S. forces are. And much of what arrives via the Caribbean comes on clandestine, secret flights, hidden flights. Venezuelan officials believe their government, headed by President Maduro, might be the real target. Now, there's some other reasons that there's speculation, besides the military forces, the naval forces heading there, that there's speculation of a possible action against Venezuela. In early August, the U.S. doubled its reward for information leading to the arrest of Venezuelan President Maduro to $50 million over allegations of drug trafficking and links to criminal groups. President Maduro, Interior Minister Cabello, and the country's ambassador to the UN, I have video of him as well, we'll see later, Samuel Moncada, have said the U.S. is threatening Venezuela with the naval deployments in violation of international treaties. They have also scoffed at U.S. assertions that the country and its leadership are key to major international drug trafficking. Venezuela's defense minister said Venezuelans know who is behind these military threats by the U.S. against our country. We are not drug traffickers. We are noble and hardworking people. Wow. Let me see if I can get you the announcement of that. The reward announcement that they made. Here, look. So here's one reason, another reason besides the ships, that people think, hey, is something going on here? Could there be more than just stopping drugs? Look at this, August 7th. Reward offer increase of up to $50 million for information leading to arrest and or conviction of Nicolás Maduro. This is from Marco Rubio. Hey, Sean TV said mentioned the Pentagon Pizza Index. Is that true, Sean? Sean, that's really nice of you. There's this account online that tracks. I believe there's an account online that tracks like how many pizzas are being ordered at near the Pentagon, or in the area of the Pentagon. I'm checking there's an account called Pentagon Pizza Report on X. They give updates about this. Now, they haven't posted in 16 hours. If you want to see it, you can go to @Pentagon, @Pen Pizza Report. Thank you, Sean. That's very kind of you. Sean TV. But so again, this reward offer on August 7th, Marco Rubio declared that the reward has gone up to $50 million for information leading to the arrest and or conviction of Nicolás Maduro. Look, he said the Department of State and the Department of Justice are announcing a reward offer increase of up to $50 million under the Narcotics Rewards Program for information leading to the arrest and or conviction of Nicolás Maduro for violating U.S. narcotics laws. The U.S. claims that for over a decade, Maduro has been a leader of Cartel de los Soles, which is responsible for tracking drugs into the U.S. On July 25th, the U.S. Department of the Treasury designated that cartel as a specially designated global terrorist. Hang on. I'm going to show you that too. Since 2020, said Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, Maduro has strangled democracy and grasped at power in Venezuela. Maduro claimed to have won the 2024 presidential election, but failed to present any evidence that he had prevailed. The U.S. has refused to recognize Maduro as the winner of the election and does not recognize him as the president of Venezuela. So, you have the Department of State saying reward of up to $50 million for information leading to the arrest and or conviction of Maduro, President Maduro of Venezuela. You have the U.S. Department of the Treasury declaring that this cartel in Venezuela is a specially designated global terrorist, and the Department of the Treasury claims that Nicolás Maduro, the president of Venezuela, leads this cartel. So some people are saying, well, yeah, the U.S. is sending these warships off the coast of Venezuela to fight against drugs. But if the U.S. has also recently said that one of the cartels there, which supplies drugs, is a terrorist organization, and they're headed by the President Maduro, well, could this really be a way to launch some sort of invasion or attack on the Maduro regime and claim it's being done to fight the drug trade? See what I'm saying here? That's a theory. You can see the Secretary of Treasury said in late July that the Maduro regime is facilitating narco-terrorism through terrorist groups like Cartel de los Soles. Okay, I'm going to take some comments in a second. I was showing you this article here. U.S. builds up forces in Caribbean as officials, experts ask why. So again, we got, according to Reuters, 7 U.S. warships plus a nuclear-powered fast attack submarine either in the region near Venezuela or expected to be there soon. They are carrying more than 4,500 sailors and Marines. Hang on a second here. So what do you guys think about this? Let's take some comments, and then I'll show you more. We got video and stuff on this. Let's see here. One of our viewers said Trump wants the oil. Well, I believe recently Venezuelan oil has started flowing back to the United States. That's a reason some experts cite that they don't think there's an invasion about to happen. Hold on, let me pull this up here. Yeah. I mean, for example, this Washington Post article about the situation, U.S. sends 8 warships south on anti-cartel mission, unsettling Venezuela. And it says down here, despite the rhetoric, the Trump administration last month reissued a Biden-era license to U.S. energy giant Chevron to resume oil operations in Venezuela, home to the largest oil reserves in the world. 2 tankers chartered by Chevron reached U.S. waters last week, carrying Venezuelan crude, the country's critical export and main source of income. All right, let me take some comments from you guys. We'll keep going here, but I don't want to ignore the comments. Danny Ennis thinks it's a PSYOP or regime change operation. Walter Wynn says there will not be an invasion. Mana H thinks it's all about an additional bargaining chip in the U.S. for the U.S. in the Ukraine-Russia negotiations. Venezuela and Russia are close allies. That's what Mana said. Monica Barnes says, I thought Trump wanted the Peace Prize. Sean Caven says Maduro is about to receive the Noriega treatment. So Sean is referring to, I think it was isn't that the last major military operation in Latin America? Let me pull up something about that. I'm going to pull up something about that. Right here, 1989. That was the last major American military operation in the region, according to The Economist. When George H.W. Bush, president, sent troops to Panama to arrest Manuel Noriega, who'd been indicted on drug trafficking charges in the U.S. You can see here, U.S. invasion of Panama. Wikipedia. The U.S. invaded Panama in mid-December 1989. During the presidency of George H.W. Bush, the purpose of the invasion was to depose the de facto ruler of Panama, General Manuel Noriega, who was wanted by U.S. authorities for racketeering and drug trafficking. Noriega surrendered in January 1990. Now, I believe for that operation, the U.S. had, I think, about 20,000 forces. According to Wikipedia, it says the U.S. had 27,000 forces there. Much less right now for the U.S. About 4,500 troops either there, soldiers and Marines either there or on the way. Eli Lewis thinks that some U.S. ships could launch strikes on Venezuelan territory. Bryman says a quick Maduro snatch and grab. Paula Thompson says, I'd prefer we not invade a country and start a war. Paula Bradley said, did Congress give approval? Jamie Rowland thinks it's an excuse to start a war there over oil. Which ship is this? Oh, this here is a Navy. Let me show you. I want to show you a video of one of these ships at the Panama Canal recently. These U.S. ships. I'm going to show you this one. The USS Erie in the Panama Canal. Let me just confirm. I believe the USS Erie is one of the ships reportedly heading there. Yeah, Newsweek for one said that the USS Erie was part of this operation. Let me show you a video of the USS Erie recently from AP at the Panama Canal. Ready? Hold on. I got to pull this up here. USS Erie is docked at Panama Canal as U.S. dispatches ships to Caribbean. Look at this. This is from AFP. See, it says USS Erie. Oops. USS Erie is docked at Panama Canal as U.S. dispatches ships to Caribbean on drug cartels crackdown. So this video was from Friday from AFP. Check it out. You'll see it in a second. Keep watching. It's a drone video. We're going to see the USS Erie. Is that it right there? Ooh, look at that. Right here. The USS Erie. There it is. That's one of the ships heading there. I don't know how long this video is. In the meantime, I'll tell you something about the USS Erie. Oh, it's the USS Lake Erie, I think it is. Is that what it is? The Lake Erie? Yes, the USS Lake Erie. It's a guided missile cruiser. That's what it is. It is a guided missile cruiser. It is a Ticonderoga-class guided missile cruiser. Oh, we're getting all kinds of views on this AFP video. And again, that's it docked recently at in Panama, reportedly en route to the region near Venezuela. Hey, by the way, thanks to I owe a couple thank yous here. Thanks to Enema, who thinks this is preparation for martial law or retaliation when they reset the global currency system. No more central bankers. Thank you to Hermit Ersatz for the gift memberships. Thanks PZ Papazulu, who says guided missile cruiser. That is what this is. Thanks PZ Papazulu. Thanks Kevs. Kevs says Maduro is the leader of Cartel de los Soles. That's what the U.S. government says. The Venezuelan government denies that. Thank you to GC America, who thinks Iran is trying to get a foothold in Venezuela. Thanks for your support. Thanks Campa Paleo, who says it would just be another operation, just cause on a bigger scale if it were to happen. Well, Just Cause, was that the Noriega one? Because that had about 27,000 people. Yeah, that was the the Panama invasion in 1989. Thank you, Campa Paleo. Also, Leor Engelstein. Thank you, Leor. And Rascally Rabbit. And Temi Dank for the memberships, and Agnostic Clippy for being a member, and Sino, and Mitchell Pilot, who thinks not nearly enough forces there for a full-scale invasion, and Pepe. Pepe thinks the military escalation is because Chevron is losing its blank in the region. Thank you, KJ Aaron as well, Wendy Cookie WM, Scott Gimbel. Thank you. All right, so that's that video of the USS Lake Erie. Again, you can see the title says USS Erie, Lake Erie, I believe it is docked at Panama Canal as U.S. dispatches ships to Caribbean on drug cartels crackdown. I want to show you some more of this from Reuters here. Polar Man thinks they're trying to stop Venezuela from making more chaos in the region. Anna said, why would the U.S. want to invade Venezuela? Well, one theory, as I just mentioned, is they've in the last month or so, in the last 5-6 weeks, they've declared Cartel de los Soles in Venezuela a specially designated global terrorist, and they say Nicolás Maduro, the president of Venezuela, is the leader of that cartel, and they have increased the reward for Nicolás Maduro to $50 million. So one reason that some think the U.S. might consider doing something militarily is in the name of stopping the drug flow and the cartel activity. I'm not saying that's the actual reason or the reason they would give. I'm just throwing that out there. Hold on a second here. All right. Let's see here. Reuters says, while U.S. Coast Guard and Navy ships regularly operate in the southern Caribbean, the current buildup exceeds the usual deployments in the region. In the naval force has been making its way to off the coast of Venezuela, in the naval force are warships, including USS San Antonio, USS Iwo Jima, and USS Fort Lauderdale. Some can carry aerial assets like helicopters, while others can also deploy Tomahawk cruise missiles. The U.S. military has also been flying P-8 spy planes in the region to gather intelligence, U.S. officials have said. They have been flying over international waters. The Trump administration has said it can use the military to go after drug cartels and criminal groups, and has directed the Pentagon to prepare options. U.S. Secretary of State Rubio traveled to Doral, Florida on Friday to visit the headquarters of the U.S. Military Southern Command, which oversees operations in the region. David Smildy, a Venezuela expert at Tulane University, said the military moves by the U.S. appeared to be an effort to pressure the Maduro government. He said, I think what they are trying to do is put maximum pressure, real military pressure, on the regime to see if they can get it to break. It's gunboat diplomacy. It's old-fashioned tactics, he said. While the naval forces are in the Caribbean and the Atlantic, the Pacific Ocean is actually the bigger route for maritime trafficking of cocaine. The UN Office on Drugs and Crime said in its 2023 Global Report on Cocaine, citing figures from the USDEA that show 74% of cocaine flowing north out of South America is trafficked over the Pacific, not the Atlantic. Traffickers use airplanes to send cocaine northward through the Caribbean, the report said, naming Venezuela as a major hub for such departures. Mexico is the main source of fentanyl into the United States, with drug cartels smuggling it over the border. And then this says, intervention against Maduro, question mark? Moncada, who is the UN, the Venezuelan ambassador to the UN, said the U.S. buildup was meant to justify an intervention against a legitimate president. Asked if the White House was ruling out regime change, a senior administration official said, right now, they're there to ensure that drug smuggling does not happen. I guess he didn't, I'm assuming he didn't give a more strong denial than that. I would think Reuters would have posted that. That's the quote that the senior administration official gave to Reuters, who said, right now they're there to ensure that drug smuggling does not happen. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt on Thursday said, the Maduro regime is not the legitimate government of Venezuela. It is a narco-terror cartel. Maduro is not a legitimate president. He is a fugitive head. Fugitive means fleeing the law. The fugitive head of this drug cartel. Let me just read you the end of this article, then we'll take some more comments from you guys. You can see at the end of the article it says, even so, U.S. officials say that while significant, the forces in the region are still far too small to be able to carry out the type of sustained operation that Venezuela has warned against. In 1989, the U.S. deployed nearly 28,000 U.S. troops to invade Panama and capture dictator Manuel Noriega. About 4,500 troops are part of this operation currently. Another expert Reuters talked to, Christopher Hernandez-Roy, with the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington, said it was possible the buildup could be used for some sort of strike in Venezuela, but it also could be simply a show of force. So this is an expert with the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington who says, quote, it's too big to be just about drugs. It's too small to be about an invasion. But it's significant enough that it's there to do something, he said. What to make of that? I don't know. We're going to give you more information. We have some more video here, some more analysis. Chippy Neal says, what do we know about Venezuela forces? It's a good question. I will talk about that more in a second. I haven't heard any kind of analysis that suggests Venezuelan forces. Hold on a second here. I haven't seen any kind of analysis that suggests Venezuelan forces would be a serious challenge to U.S. forces, but it's a fair question. J.L. Trem says, how do warships out in the ocean stop drug smuggling? As we'll talk about, President Maduro of Venezuela has been saying in recent weeks that he is calling up more Venezuelan forces. TV Party, our viewer, says if there is no demand for the drugs, there is no market for the drugs and smuggling would cease. We need to fix this internally to really solve the problem. Nigel Fortune, our viewer, thinks Trump wants the Nobel Peace Prize more than stopping any drug flow from Venezuela. We should do a poll on this. Thank you, Gabriel Moro says, how many times have there been such huge bounties on leaders outside of, say, Saddam or Osama bin Laden, who the U.S. killed? I believe this $50 million reward for Maduro, leading to the information leading to the arrest and or conviction of Maduro, I believe it's more than even the Osama bin Laden bounty. Now, that was a couple decades ago. But, yeah, The Economist says the $50 million reward is more than the U.S. even offered for Osama bin Laden. Hold on a second here. Thanks to Gabriel Moro, thanks to MAGA Man, our member, Lunar Guardian, who thinks this is about the vast oil reserves. They have the most oil reserves in the world, Venezuela. Thanks Aegon Cholakian, PZ Papazulu, GC America, who says there are Iran-Venezuela ties. Hermit Ersatz for the gift memberships. Also, thanks to Rivertown Creations on Twitch for subscribing. Big Dog Gaming for your support. King Bob for subscribing on Twitch. Dark Crypto 800 for your support on Twitch. Moomed 2 for subscribing. Also, Cray Sky, who says any Venezuela live cameras. I don't have any right now that I can show you. I haven't heard about anything going on right now in Venezuela. Cray Sky. If something happens there, and I have a live camera in the future, I will certainly show it to you. Thank you so much, Cray Sky, for your support. Also, A Little Bits. A Little Bits claims Venezuela has a Russian ammunition factory. Thanks to Dewey for your support, too, for the memberships. Let's do a poll. For the poll, I'm going to say, what will U.S. do in Venezuela? And then the 4 options are going to be invade, airstrikes, special operation, nothing. takes me a second to post this. I'll see if Facebook has fixed their polling yet. My guess is that they haven't. The polls seem to be broken on Facebook. I try to post them, they don't work. I do post them and they still don't work. Supposedly the poll is active on... it's not even activating. No, it's not even working. It's not, the Facebook polls, they just stopped working. I'm sorry, Facebook. I've told them this. That's not working. All right, here's what you guys had to say. I said, what will the U.S. do in Venezuela? And here's what so far you think. Over there on YouTube, 10% say invade, 15% say airstrikes, 39% say special operation, 35% say nothing. And how about over there on Twitch? So a majority of you are not saying nothing. On Twitch, 3% say invade, 6% say airstrikes, 51% say special operation, and 39% say nothing. Randy Jackson says Trump Tower Caracas. You know, another reason, look, the Trump administration does not think that he won the election, that it is what many believe, and there is significant evidence that that Maduro stole the previous election. The U.S., for example, does not consider him the legitimate ruler of Venezuela and the winner of the last election. You know, just as an example, the Economist this week described him as a serial election stealer who nabbed last year's in a daylight robbery. Anyways, my point is maybe President Trump likes the idea of removing Maduro from power. I mean, look, the Trump administration just put a $50 million bounty on Nicolás Maduro in terms of information leading to his arrest or conviction. So, and they say he runs a terrorist cartel. And they say that he hasn't presented evidence that he won the election and he has strangled democracy in Venezuela. So maybe President Trump likes the idea of being the person who took Maduro out of power. I don't know. I'm just saying that's another possible reason that Trump and his administration could find this a move against Maduro attractive. Anyways, so less than 40% of you on Twitch and YouTube thinks that nothing will happen here. Thanks for voting in our poll. We'll have to see. I'm going to show you something else about this. I'm going to show you some video, though, too. So we are talking about this significant U.S. warship and personnel deployment near Venezuela that's going on. Is it really just to prevent drugs from coming into the U.S., or is there something else at play? Hang on a moment here. Wayne Taylor, our viewer, thinks the international backlash would be too much and the U.S. will do nothing. Renton says, surely the people who elected Trump wanted Trump to focus on the U.S. and not other countries' issues, right? Okay, let me talk some more about this, and also let me show you one of the other videos here. This is a different ship. This is another U.S. ship. Which ship is this? Hold on. This is the USS Sampson. That is part of the observation, correct? Let me just make sure here. Actually, I'm not positive that the USS Sampson is part of it. And that's on the Pacific side right now. So that's the wrong side, the USS Sampson. I'm not going to worry about that right now. We showed you the video before of the USS Lake Erie in the Panama Canal. How about... Hold on. Oh! I got daytime view of the USS Lake Erie. Here, I got a different video for you of the USS Lake Erie, which is a guided missile cruiser. This is from AFP. This is from Friday. And the caption for this video is where is it here? I'll just show it to you. Guided missile cruiser USS Erie is seen docked on the Panama Canal as U.S. dispatching troops to the ships to the Caribbean. Now, we already saw one video of it at night, but let's look at this one of it during the day. There it is. This is the guided missile cruiser USS Lake Erie. Which some reports say is part of this operation. I can't confirm that, though. I wonder if it even shows up if you do like marine traffic. Will the USS Lake Erie? I mean, I would think that that you couldn't use public trackers to track ships on missions. That is the Panama Canal, and that's the USS guided missile cruiser Lake Erie. That's a video from Friday. Chris N says, I'm surprised they let a drone take their picture. I mean, it is at the Panama Canal. Oh, there's other video. Look at this. Look at that shot right there. Wow. The guided missile cruiser, Lake Erie. Nice video. Wow. AFP video of the USS Lake Erie at the Panama Canal. That's a video put out on Friday. Now, again, I'm not positive this particular ship is part of this operation. I mean, Newsweek had a report. Newsweek had a report yesterday that this ship is part of the military presence near Venezuela. And it said that this ship transited the Panama Canal late Friday. Okay. And it's saying this ship moved into the Atlantic from the Pacific side. Okay? That's according to Newsweek on Friday. Let me forward here. I don't know how much more of the video there is. Ooh, there's more of a close-up shot there. Ooh. There's a lot of video. Look at that. Wow. Okay, there it is. Neat video from AFP. The USS Lake Erie in Panama a couple days ago. All right, let's talk about this some more. That was a neat video. All right, so we are covering the U.S. naval buildup near Venezuela in the southern Caribbean Sea, as I mentioned before. If you look on your map here from Google Maps, we got the U.S. up at the top. We got Venezuela down here. And then you see it says Caribbean Sea. And what is it? 7 or 8 ships now either in the region or approaching the region from the U.S. Warships, and about 4,500 U.S. sailors and Marines on those ships. And In theory, it's for fighting drug trafficking, stopping drugs being sent toward the U.S., but is that really what's going on? Some think there could be more to it than that. So we're giving you a live update today. Richard Walter thinks Maduro is going down. You can see here from AP, what to know about the U.S. warships sent to South America and the reaction in Venezuela. Kim Henry says, I think it's just intimidation. RJD said, Maduro is the chief of the cartel. So AP says the U.S. is boosting its maritime force in the waters off of Venezuela to combat threats from Latin American drug cartels, with the expected arrival of more vessels next week, an action that will undoubtedly fuel more speculation in Venezuela. The U.S. government has not signaled any planned land incursion from the thousands of personnel being deployed, and analysts and current and former government officials see no possibility of an invasion in Venezuela. I've seen a lot of experts who say they just don't think this is going to happen. Still, the deployment has dominated conversations in the streets and at dinner tables in Venezuela, where an alleged threat of invasion is spilling over from social media and state television. I mean, it's not just in Venezuela. There are others outside of Venezuela speculating about this. The government has capitalized on the speculation by appealing to people, primarily its diminishing base, to enlist in a beleaguered militia, while the opposition in Venezuela is again characterizing U.S. actions as a sign of President Maduro's rule nearing an end. The U.S. now has two Aegis-guided missile destroyers, the USS Gravely and the USS Jason Dunham in the Caribbean, as well as the destroyer USS Sampson and the cruiser USS Lake Erie in the Pacific. But Newsweek says the USS Lake Erie is no longer in the Pacific. It's in the Atlantic now. Right? So if we look at our map, Newsweek reports that on Friday, the USS Lake Erie transited the canal. Hold on a second here. Let me show you. Here, Panama Canal. But the idea is that it would go from the Pacific side, which is down here, to the Atlantic side. So Newsweek reports that on Friday, the USS Lake Erie went through the canal to the Atlantic side, which is the Venezuela side. Anyways, as of this article, it said the U.S. had two Aegis-guided missile destroyers, the USS Gravely and the USS Jason Dunham in the Caribbean, as well as the destroyer USS Sampson and the cruiser USS Lake Erie, which now reportedly is in the Atlantic, according to a defense official. That military presence is set to expand. 3 amphibious assault ships. 3 amphibious assault ships. That means they could operate on the water and on land, right? Amphibious? I would think. 3 amphibious assault ships. A force that encompasses more than 4,000 sailors and Marines would be entering the waters off Latin America by next week, said an official, a defense official that AP talked to. By the way, an amphibious warfare ship, says Wikipedia, is a warship employed to land and support ground forces on enemy territory during an amphibious assault. Again, 3 amphibious assault ships, AP reports, will be entering the waters off Latin America by next week. Pentagon officials have refused to say exactly where the USS Iwo Jima, the USS San Antonio, and the USS Fort Lauderdale, which I guess are the 3 amphibious assault ships. Pentagon officials have refused to say exactly where they're heading. What is the purpose of this U.S. deployment? The new chief of naval operations, Admiral Darrell Caudle, said last week that the U.S. ships are heading into waters off of South America to support Venezuelan operations and missions that involve drug cartels. Speaking Thursday, Caudle cited the concern that some Venezuelans are taking part in large drug operations, but he declined to provide specifics about the military's goals, saying much of the information is classified. He said his job is to provide naval forces for military commanders to deploy, which in turn gives the President and Secretary of Defense options. The deployment comes as President Trump has pushed for the military to thwart cartels he blames for the flow of fentanyl and other illicit drugs into American communities and for perpetuating violence in some U.S. cities. Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt was asked by a reporter Thursday about the presence of the U.S. warships and whether Trump was considering military strikes on Venezuela. The press secretary said she would not get ahead of Trump, but many nations in the region cheered U.S. counter-drug efforts, and she said the president is prepared to use every element of American power to stop drugs from flooding into our country and to bring those responsible to justice. Remember, Trump has designated Venezuela's Tren de Aragua, MS-13 in El Salvador, and 6 groups based in Mexico as foreign terrorist organizations. Also, as I mentioned, the U.S. Department of the Treasury said that the Cartel de los Soles, a Venezuela-backed criminal group, is a specially designated global terrorist, they said, and they said this group is headed by Maduro. And they said they are increasing, the Department of State said it's increasing its reward offer of up to $50 million for information leading to the arrest and or conviction of Nicolás Maduro. So, I mean, if this force is there to stop the activity of Venezuelan cartels and to stop drug flow, and if the U.S. government says Maduro is the head of this terrorist cartel, well, and the U.S. is offering $50 million reward for Maduro, I mean, you can see why some people might think, well, maybe the U.S. is going to go in and get Maduro themselves in the name of stopping drug flow and stopping cartel activity. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying you can see the thinking here. Christopher Sabatini, a research fellow at Chatham House in London, says AP, said the deployment, the designation of Tren de Aragua as a foreign terrorist organization, and the recent doubling of a bounty for Maduro are parts of the White House's strategy of making as much noise as possible to satisfy Venezuela's opposition, many of whom are Trump supporters, and to scare maneuver high-level Venezuelan government officials into defecting. But he thinks there is no realism here in terms of the likelihood of an actual invasion. What do you think? In a second, I'll tell you how Maduro has been reacting. What do you think? Spaghetti says Maduro has been in power for 13 years. Why now? Real Life 3 thinks Trump is going to use the military to take out Maduro and then pocket the prize money for himself, LOL. That's what Real Life said. Our viewer Wendy McDowell says arrest of these criminals is the only way. Michael Ferrua says, could be similar to the operation in 1989-1990 when the U.S. Marines overthrew the Panamanian dictator Noriega. We talked about that earlier. This was in 1989-1990 when the U.S. Captured General Manuel Noriega, wanted by the U.S. authorities for racketeering and drug trafficking. That operation involved around 28,000 U.S. forces. That was the last major U.S. military operation in the region. Some Italian guy says this is about Russia. Rock Lobster says Canada might be next. Greg Muse says no more invasion because Trump said end all wars. Chris N says, I don't think we would invade. James Waite says, is this real or training? I'm going to show you what some of Maduro has said, how he has responded. Squid Ink thinks that whatever was set in motion by our military and our government under the Biden administration is continuing escalating now. Squid Ink says that the 2024 election was under the Biden administration. Thanks, Squid Ink, for writing in. I have some other things to show you on this. Hang on a moment here. Tommy Lee points out that Maduro has in the past been outspoken about claiming part of Guyana, which is next to Venezuela. Tommy Lee says Exxon and Chevron are big companies in Guyana. Tens of billions of dollars of investment on this. That's what Tommy said. We'll talk more about Guyana in a second. I want to show you some about what Maduro has said. How has Maduro's government reacted to the deployment of U.S. forces? When a state television presenter on Monday asked Maduro for his take on the siren songs about a fleet of Marines coming to end his government, Maduro said more than 90% of Venezuelans reject the announcements and threats from the U.S. government. Maduro said this last week, we Venezuelans are within our own law and no one touches this land. Maduro also repudiated the drug trafficking accusations from the U.S. and insisted that Venezuela, unlike neighboring Colombia, is free of cocoa leaf crops and free of cocaine production. He suggested that the drug crimes are the White House's accusations du jour. Maduro said they have changed the narrative and no longer accuse those they want to destroy of being communists. That was the accusation they made during the Soviet Union, Maduro said. They no longer accuse them of being terrorists, like when they accused Iraq, Afghanistan, and Libya of being terrorists. Now the crude, I'd say extravagant, outlandish accusation is drug trafficking, Maduro said. The announcement of the U.S. deployment of forces off the coast of Venezuela prompted Maduro to call on Venezuelans to join a volunteer militia meant to resist the U.S. armed forces in case of attack. Members hosted sign-up drives over the last weekend, which Maduro characterized as successful without providing the number of new recruits. The government had scheduled enlistment events for this weekend. The ruling party has long claimed the militia's membership to be above 4.5 million, but that is certainly an overcount, as support of the government has plummeted and millions, including Maduro supporters, have migrated in search of better living conditions. Our viewer MWP says special ops will be sent in, probably already there. Thanks to Sydney for the gift memberships. Thank you, Gabriel Moro, who says Trump posted on Truth Social about MS-13. Well, Trump on Truth Social today said he posted about arrests made in D.C. and said an El Salvadoran national and a member of MS-13 designated terrorist organization was administratively arrested. I mean, that doesn't really seem like a big reference to Venezuela there. Seems like this is more about D.C. Just looking at it. But thank you to Gabriel Moro. Trump also posted 2 hours ago on his True Social saying, "I've never felt better in my life," in case you missed that. You know, he did not appear in public, I believe, from Wednesday till Friday. And then on Saturday, he was appearing in public again. And he said, I'm guessing this is a response to this. He said, "Never felt better in my life," in capital letters. Jean-Paul Lachance says this might be another Vietnam in Venezuela. All right, hang on a moment here. Oh, I have an update from AFP on the U.S. warship entering Panama. By the way, the Guyana election, which is next, Guyana is next to Venezuela, is tomorrow. One of our viewers had mentioned that earlier. So let me show you this from AFP. Hold on a second here. Can you see this? U.S. warship enters Panama Canal heading towards Caribbean, says Saturday. The Lake Erie. We were just talking. This is the Lake Erie. This, you know, I showed you the two videos from AFP of the Lake Erie. That's a guided missile cruiser. Okay, so this is it crossing the Pedro Miguel locks of the Panama Canal. A U.S. guided missile cruiser the USS Lake Erie was seen crossing the Panama Canal from the Pacific to the Caribbean Friday night after the Trump administration deployed warships near the coast of Venezuela. AFP journalists saw the naval vessel passing through one of the Panama Canal's locks around 9:30 p.m. Friday night and navigating east toward the Atlantic. The U.S. has said the deployment of warships to the southern Caribbean near Venezuela's territorial waters was an anti-drug trafficking operation. A 32-year-old health technician in the area, Alfredo Cedeno, said, "I didn't know the ship was going to pass. I was surprised." The Lake Erie had been moored for the past 2 days at the port of Rodman at the canal's Pacific entrance. AFP says Washington has accused Venezuelan President Maduro of leading a drug cartel and has doubled the bounty for his capture to $50 million. The U.S., however, has made no public threat to invade Venezuela. Venezuela, the government announced on Monday the deployment of 15,000 security forces to the Colombian border for anti-drug trafficking operations. A day later, Venezuela announced it would patrol its territorial waters with drones and Navy ships. Maduro also claimed to have mobilized more than 4 million militia members in response to U.S. threats. So again, the guided missile cruiser, USS Lake Erie, which we saw video of before, did cross from the Pacific into the Atlantic, closer to Venezuela on Friday night through the Panama Canal. That is from AFP. So that's an interesting report. I got some more to show you on this, too. Old Dirty Dasher says, what happened to No More Wars? Distant Galaxy says, what crap are we up to now? Donnie Brooklads thinks Maduro will ask China and Putin for help. Irish Sweetness says, Trump is poking at a lot of countries. Zach and Bry says Venezuela is blanked. Jay Belfield says the cartel will send one of those little submarines from the 90s to blow up a warship. John Nelson thinks the U.S. wants to steal Venezuela's oil and gas. Fweeky Beats says warship drug wars. Pyro for Life says, everyone grab popcorn and watch this movie unfold. You know, I have video of the Venezuelan ambassador to the UN speaking, I think it was on Thursday. So I'd like to check out some of that. If you give me a second here, show you what he had to say. Now, some of it's in Spanish. I'm not going to play the Spanish part. So what you can see is this says, Venezuela's ambassador speaks to reporters. And then this is from Thursday. Oopsie. Let me just get this posted for you. Okay, last Thursday. Now, I have to forward through the part where he's speaking Spanish. Let me just pull this up here for you. I'm going to cue it up here for you.
I'm here to inform you, to report you about a meeting that we had with the leader de letter, reading Spanish now, de la política de nuclearización en riesgo política. No. Me gustaría preguntarle, ¿cuál es la posibilidad de unos 8 Bahamas?
Hang on. Okay, so here is, let me show you some of the, I'm going to show you, this is the Venezuela ambassador to UN. That's who this is, the Venezuelan ambassador to United Nations. Just show you a little bit of what he had to say. And his name is Samuel Moncada. All right, so here we go. Let me just, I'm putting this up for you right now.
Eso sí creo que queda claro. Y el próximo septiembre será una gran oportunidad para nosotros para informar personalmente a todos los altos funcionarios que van a venir acá.
Mr. Ambassador, Edith Lederer from the Associated Press. You're calling on the Secretary General to call on the United States to stop this hostile action and threats. Are you planning to ask the Security Council to take any action?
So far, no. This is an important question if we are going to ask the Security Council to take any action. So far, no. Why? Because so far are just words, rhetoric, threats. Although we take these threats very seriously, we are informing all members of the Security Council about this grave and serious situation, but we are just waiting for new developments. It's it's an escalation, just announcing 8 warships with capacity to bomb Venezuela in any part of Venezuela, and now they are saying that they are sending a nuclear submarine. That this submarine is a new, it's ridiculous to think that they are fighting drug trafficking with nuclear submarines.
Does Venezuela have any evidence that these American vessels are actually nuclear armed? They may be nuclear capable, but are they nuclear armed?
Fascinating question. The very same Secretary General asked me exactly that question. Do they have nuclear weapons? Excuse me, we are not the ones who have to answer that question. They are the ones who have to answer those questions. The ones who are saying, proclaiming that they are sending nuclear weapons, nuclear warships, nuclear submarines to the regions are the ones who have to clarify if they carry nuclear weapons or not. But we are not in the role of answering that question. We are in the role of denouncing the threat and the terror campaign.
This is to warn the United States. Does your country prepare to deploy forces as well?
No, we are prepared to defend our country, not to deploy forces in the region. We defend our territory. This is our obligation, our duty, sacred duty as Venezuelans, to exercise our right to legitimate defense, to self-defense. This is the Charter, Article 51. But so far, what we are encountering is the threat of use of force. The threat of use of force itself is a violation of the Charter. And we need the international community to understand that they are violating the Charter. They are ignoring their international obligations just by threatening the use of force with the false excuse of fighting drug trafficking more. It's very important for everyone to understand that only in 3 moments of the United States history, the whole 250 years history, only in 3 occasions they have used the 1798 law act that allows them to declare one nationality as enemy alien. British, Germans, and Venezuelans. Now they declare that all Venezuelans of 14 years old upwards, children of 14 years old, according to the declaration, to the executive order, are terrorists perpetrating an invasion of the United States terrorists and constitute a national threat. I mean, the very presence of Venezuelans in the United States territory is contrary to the security of the United States. I mean, all Venezuelans here are enemies. Never before. I mean, this is pure racism, you see? This is an exaggeration of the propaganda campaign, and now they are declaring that our president, our legitimate president, is the head of that invasion. I mean, this exaggerated, ridiculous, absurd rhetoric has to be dismantled, has to be exposed in its absurdity to the international community, because it's the base for a military action against a member of the United Nations, which is not a threat to anyone.
So what was the Secretary General's advice to you?
No, he didn't give us any advice. I think he was concerned, he showed concern, and we will wait for his initiative and decisions and actions in the near future. But the important thing is he was well informed, he was interested in the case, and we will see what happens from the Secretary General from here onwards.
Well, what did he say he was going to do?
No, he didn't commit himself in that particular meeting to any specific actions, but we believe, firmly believe, that there is room for the Secretary General action in this matter.
La última por aquí, señor Moncada. Me gustaría preguntarle.
Let me just forward through the next question.
No es la mejor forma de combatir el narcotráfico, pero Venezuela justamente ha tomado la.
I'm getting to the
Sin
English.
coordinación con el vecino, pareciera una acción agresiva o no tener.
Drug cartels. Does Venezuela believe that? And if you don't,
For us.
Michelle Nichols from Reuters. Apologies if you've answered this in Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. The Americans have said that this is to tackle drug cartels. Does Venezuela believe that? And if you don't, what do you think they're there for?
We don't believe at all that they are there to fight in drug trafficking at all, for 3 reasons. The main routes of drug trafficking are on the Pacific Ocean. I mean, they mistook the ocean. They went to the Caribbean, and they had to go to the Pacific Ocean, first of all. Second, Venezuela is not a drug producer. We are free of cultivation. Venezuela is free of laboratories. We are not a drug processing country. And of course, it's true, we are part of the roots of drug trafficking, but if you take in account the proportions, we are less than 5% of the drug traffic running around the world. Venezuela is a minuscule part of the whole thing. This is a narrative which is being fabricated just for the purpose of producing, justify an intervention against a legitimate president in a Latin American country. If they really want to fight drug trafficking, they should begin here, and not just with the drug cartels, also with the pharmaceutical corporations who sold legally drugs, Oxycontin, and the rest of them. Big corporations, rich people, tens of billions of dollars corporations killing thousands of young Americans every single year, 70,000 every single year. I studied this society. We know the big corporations selling drugs on the pharmacies, I mean, legally, not just the drug cartels. Why don't begin by that? But we are also absolutely willing to cooperate but to cooperate as we are doing with Colombia, as we are doing with any other country, which is not trying to bomb us.
So can you, sorry, just for our viewers and readers out there, can you just repeat again what you think the real intention of the Americans
The real
is?
intention of America, they declared themselves. They said that they do not recognize our president as the legitimate president of our country. They said that Venezuela is perpetrating an invasion of the American U.S. territory. They said that all Venezuelans in the United States are contrary to the national security of this country. They say that all Venezuelans, every single one of them, older than 14 years old, is an enemy, alien enemy, and has to be expelled from this country. And they said that the head of this massive invasion against this country is our president, and is a fugitive, they said it themselves today, and had to be punished. And they put a $50 million reward for our president. I mean, it's clear what they are trying to say. It's a coup d'etat. It's what they said, what they did in 1990s in Panama, what they tried to do to Nicaragua, what they did in Iraq, what they did in Libya. I mean, it's a massive operation, propaganda operation, to justify what the experts call kinetic action, meaning military intervention in a country which is a sovereign and independent country and is no threat to anyone. Well, thank you.
So you just heard it. That's the Venezuelan ambassador to the UN last Thursday saying that he believes, the Venezuelan government believes, that the U.S. is not putting these ships and these Marines and sailors near Venezuela to fight the drug traffic. He thinks it's a fake excuse. The Venezuelan government says they're really there to launch a military intervention to overthrow the Venezuelan government. He just said it. You just heard him say it. He said if they really wanted to fight the drug trafficking, they would be in the Pacific Ocean, not in the Caribbean Sea, not in the Atlantic side of the Panama Canal, and they wouldn't be going after Venezuela. So, I mean, that's what he just said. We just heard him say it. So that's what that's the official position of the Venezuelan government, is that the U.S. is there to do military intervention. I'm going to take some comments in a second. I just want to see if there's any more of the English language Q&A on this appearance he did at the UN on Thursday. All right, hold on a second here.
Very much indeed. Thank you.
Oh, that's it. All right.
Grateful for any further updates.
Oh, well, that was it. Well, that was actually interesting to watch. You got to see the Venezuelan government position right there. Right there. That was it. That was a few-minute summary of the Venezuelan government's position. Okay. Take some comments from you guys. I want to show you something from the Atlantic Council as well. So we are talking about this buildup of U.S. forces going on in the waters off of Venezuela. As Reuters says, 7 U.S. warships, along with 1 nuclear-powered fast attack submarine, are either in the region or expected to be there soon, bringing along more than 4,500 sailors and Marines. So, a number of U.S. officials have claimed this is about stopping the drug flow out of Venezuela. But is that really what's going on? Some think there might be something more going on. And some think that the U.S. might try to go after President Maduro of Venezuela in the name of stopping the drug flow, since the U.S. has recently, in late July, said that, for example, Treasury sanctions Venezuelan cartel headed by Maduro. They claim he's the head of cartels. And they have increased the U.S. their offer of a reward, calling him a fugitive from justice, reward for Maduro of $50 million now, up to $50 million. They say he is the leader of Cartel de los Soles, which is responsible for trafficking drugs into the United States. So, even if it's about going after the drug flow, they certainly seem to have set up a way to argue that going after Maduro is going after drug flow. I don't know that anything will happen here. So, what do you think is going to happen? How Rhoda thinks the U.S. government is going there personally to collect the bounty. Two Socks thinks it is clearly not for drugs, far bigger and closer targets for that. Trigger says draining the swamp was not just in D.C. Nothing can stop what is coming. Twitch Observer says then invasion of Mexico. There's been some speculation that the U.S. could use military forces against cartels in Mexico. That's a bit off topic, but it's interesting. It's an interesting point. I don't know if I can find something really quick to show you on that. I mean, back in April, the New York Times reported that President Trump secretly signed a directive to the Pentagon to begin using military force against certain Latin American drug cartels. And CBS News said, where is it here? CBS News reported just a few days ago, there's an article from CBS News that said President Trump has directed the U.S. military to use force against, oh, we told you about that, Latin America, similar to New York Times, to use military force against Latin American drug cartels deemed terrorist organizations. Oh, and also in February, the Trump administration designated 8 different drug trafficking groups as terrorist organizations. 1 is Venezuelan, 1 is El Salvadoran, and 6 are Mexican. So if it is true that President Trump has ordered the Pentagon to use military force against Latin American drug cartels deemed terrorist organizations, well, the U.S. has already deemed 6 Mexican cartels terrorist organizations. So could we see U.S. military intervention against Mexican cartels? That's a whole other question. Jason C. says, why not stop it in Colombia? By the way, a quick thanks to Brenton Gunning, who says Venezuela has more proven oil reserves than any other country in the world. Thank you, Brenton, for your support. Thanks, Mama Cat and Jesse James for being members. Thanks, Dupper Bob, for your support. Christopher and It's Mary are new members. Jean-Paul LeChance for the gift memberships. Also, thanks to Running Kings for subscribing on Twitch. Yarny Scoop for subscribing on Twitch. Guy from the 207. Yes, Trump was seen playing golf this weekend, golf outings. A guy from the 207 wondered if Trump had been seen over the weekend. Yes. Thanks, Guy, for the 207. Also, I want to, hold on a second here. Shout out our moderators. I really appreciate them. Oh, thanks, Susan Priest Buchner, for the Facebook stars, by the way. Christina Neal, Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley, Paul Anderson, Shannon Davis Hughes over there on Facebook. Thank you so much for moderating over there. And also, hang on a moment. Linda Belk, Larry, Misha on X, on Twitch, 13 Alamo, Bastion Girl, Big Ball of Yarn, Good Luck Duck, LB Prairie Dawn, Matthew Kohai 3, and all of our other moderators. Thanks so much. Thanks, Ralph Stallworth, and Chuck Mosca for subscribing over there on Facebook. Thank you. And Kay and Margaret as well. Gustavo Marin, our viewer, claims that everybody in Latin America knows that Maduro and Cabello are a big part of drug cartels. That's what our viewer Gustavo claims. Club 4 GHZ says you don't send such a force to do nothing. Song says sending in military will only add to tension and probably death. I want to show you some more analysis about this here. What I'm going to show you is, oh, by the way, medium chance of tropical depression next week. Look at this. The National Hurricane Center is monitoring a tropical wave over the far eastern Atlantic that has a medium chance of developing into a tropical depression during next week, which could then develop into a tropical storm or a hurricane. So just throwing that out there. Our viewer William C. thinks Venezuela is a failed state and requires a change in leadership. Give me one moment here. I'm just checking something here. Give me 1 second. Some people are sending me something, and I'm trying to find out where they're finding it. Oh, here it is. Thank you. Thanks. A number of viewers wrote to me about this. AZ Intel posted about it as well. So we mentioned Guyana before, which is a country, the English-speaking country next to Colombia, next to Venezuela. Which they have an election coming up tomorrow. And then also last year, I remember Maduro was threatening Guyana. Well, yeah, right here. This was last couple of years. You can see this Guyana-Venezuela crisis. The long-standing territorial dispute over the Essequibo region escalated to a crisis in 2023. The region is administered by Guyana but is claimed by Venezuela. The dispute dates back many years. Significant oil reserves were discovered offshore in the 2010s, which raised the stakes of the dispute. In December of 2023, Venezuela held a referendum of its people asking whether the region should become a state of Venezuela and its population become citizens, among other questions. Although the turnout was reported to be low, the Venezuelan government declared the results showed overwhelming support for such action. Venezuela then took further steps to press its claims, such as publishing maps showing the territory annexed to Venezuela and announcing plans to develop the region. In response to Venezuela's actions, other countries supported Guyana's position. Brazil sent troops to its border with the region. The U.S. conducted military exercises with Guyana. In 2024 March, Venezuela passed a law that designated this part of Guyana as a new state of Venezuela. But Venezuela has not moved to militarily take Essequibo by force. So what you see here is, according to Wikipedia, the orange is Venezuela, the green and the light green and dark green are Guyana, and the light green is the disputed Guyana Essequibo region. So, with that in mind as background, some background, AZ Intel, who I follow on X, and some of our viewers mentioned this as well, mentioned that the Guyana Defense Force posted this today. They claimed incident during ballot box escort. Approximately 2:30 p.m. today, while escorting officials and ballot boxes along a river near the Guyana-Venezuela border, a joint services patrol came under fire from the Venezuelan shore, says Guyana. The escort team was conducting official duties in support of ballot distribution to remote polling stations. A total of 9 officials were election officials were aboard the vessels at this time. I assume that's for the election officials. GCOM Guyana. Okay, and then they say, Guyana Elections Commission. The patrol immediately returned fire and successfully maneuvered the escort team out of danger. No injuries were sustained by any personnel, and no election materials were damaged or compromised. Despite the incident, the team safely continued its journey, and all remaining ballot boxes were successfully delivered to their assigned polling stations. Anyways, that's for Guyana today. I cannot confirm this incident happened or any of the details. That is what Guyana is saying. Okay. Thanks for messaging me about that to our viewers. Thanks to AZ Intel for posting the statement. Now, I want to show you some analysis of this situation here. So, by the way, thank you to AZ Intel's dad. Speaking of AZ Intel, I just saw AZ Intel's dad in the chat, made a donation. That's very kind of you, AZ Intel's dad. I was just thanking AZ Intel. Thank you, AZ Intel's dad. Very kind of you. Really appreciate all your support. Thank you to Ada60. When is this? I'll have to look that up, Ada60. And Marcel Fofford. Thanks, Marcel, for your support. Marcel said Marco Rubio said this is a red line. I'm not sure what Marco Rubio has said about Guyana and whether this report about firing at this boat would cross that red line. I'll have to see if I see anything more about it. Thank you, Marcel Fafford. I very much appreciate your support. Okay, I want to show you guys something here. Thanks also Tim Glenn. Tim Glenn says Iran news of build-up in region. Tim, are you saying in the Iran region or the Venezuela region? I'm not sure. Thank you, Tim Glenn. I haven't heard about a build-up in Iran region. But maybe I'm misinterpreting you, Tim. Feel free to post in the chat about it. Thank you also, Andres Prieto as well, who says Maduro isn't recognized as president by most countries, not just the U.S., although U.S. Secretary Rubio announced an international coalition a couple days ago. I'll have to look that up. I'm not familiar with that announcement. Thank you, Andres. I haven't heard anything about this. I haven't heard about anything about this military action, this military buildup by the U.S. becoming an international coalition. I haven't heard anything about that. Now, maybe I'm wrong and I missed it, but I haven't heard anything about that. But you might not be talking about Andres, just to be clear, though. Thanks also Obsidian Moon, Joe South Oz, our members. Thank you. And Better Bite, did I think? Bitter Bite. Okay, let me show you guys something here. So, why is the U.S. building up this force near Venezuela of a force of 7 U.S. warships, 1 nuclear-powered fast attack submarine, 4,500 sailors and Marines, and other assets near Venezuela? Is it just to fight drug operations? Fight the export of drugs from Venezuela? Or is something else going on? We've been talking about this. So I want to show you something here. Oh, thanks to William C. for your support. I really appreciate it, William C. Thank you. Yeah, Marcel mentioned back in June there are articles saying Rubio vows stern response if Venezuela attacks Guyana. I don't know that Guyana reporting that there were a few shots at a boat carrying ballots that didn't do any injuries. My guess is that Marco Rubio would not stand up and say, "That's it, you've crossed the line, and we're going to give a stern response." I don't know that counts as Venezuela attacking Guyana for purposes of Rubio's vow. I might be wrong about that, but certainly if Marco Rubio wanted to, he could not see that incident reported by Guyana today as an attack by Venezuela on Guyana. I don't know the exact language he used. Anyways, thank you for mentioning that, though, Marcel. Okay, so I want to show you what the Atlantic Council said about this story. The Atlantic Council is a think tank. They have a lot of experts there who do analysis about international affairs. They post a lot of interesting articles on their website. I'd really like to go to their website and check out articles about what's going on with international developments, including conflicts or potential conflicts. And they're nice enough, the Atlantic Council, to let me sometimes show you an article from their site. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to post a link to the Atlantic Council's website where you can go for free and read their articles. And also I'm going to post you a link to this article in the chat. They have an article. Look at this. Why are U.S. warships heading toward Venezuela? And I got to be honest with you. I saw this today. I hadn't seen it before. And I haven't even read it yet myself. So I saw it before we came on the air. And I said, oh, I got to talk about that on the stream. So I like their articles. So let's talk about some of what Atlantic Council has to say. So Atlantic Council says, set a course for the Caribbean. The U.S. has deployed 3 Aegis guided missile destroyers and several other warships to the waters near Venezuela to counter maritime narcotics trafficking. President Trump has made curbing drug flows into the United States an administration priority. At the same time, the sizable U.S. flotilla, which carries more than 4,000 U.S. sailors and Marines, has raised speculation about the threat it poses to Venezuelan strongman Nicolás Maduro. 2 top Atlantic Council experts talked about in this article about what they think is going on. Why is the Trump administration deploying warships to the southern Caribbean? As I mentioned before, Google Maps, we're talking about there's Venezuela, U.S. is up here. This is the southern Caribbean. The water is off of Venezuela. The U.S. is deploying a group of Navy warships and other vessels to the Caribbean due to Trump's laser focus in going after transnational organized crime. It's an action that has precedent, with Trump having deployed naval assets to the Caribbean in 2020 as well. This move coincides with the recent doubling of the reward to $50 million for information leading to the arrest of Maduro for being, quote, one of the largest narco traffickers in the world. Additionally, the U.S. Department of Justice has indicted Venezuelan strongman Maduro for being the head of a drug trafficking network in the Venezuelan military known as the Cartel de los Soles. Here, notably, when the Trump administration labeled the group a terrorist organization last month, it did not give it the same foreign terrorist organization label as other drug cartels. Instead, the Trump administration created a new class of individual sanctions that the Treasury Department could use to go after individuals associated with the network. Importantly, White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt reaffirmed on Thursday the degree to which Venezuelan leader Maduro is a menace, noting, Maduro is not a legitimate president. He is a fugitive head of this drug cartel. That's what the press secretary called him last Thursday. Called Maduro the fugitive, fleeing from the law, wanted, head of this drug cartel. These actions, says Atlantic Council, are drawing renewed attention to the actions of the Maduro regime. At a time of competing global crises, his authoritarian regime has managed to deflect sustained international pressure for democratic change, maintaining an iron grip on power. Just over a year ago, Maduro blatantly disregarded the results of Venezuela's latest presidential election, an election in which opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez won more than twice as many votes, according to vote tallies obtained by the Democratic opposition. And earlier this year, he claimed an illegitimate mandate to remain in office. So that was from Jason Marzak of Atlantic Council. But you see, he's explaining to you some of these recent actions the U.S. has taken and designations they've made and things U.S. officials have said have seemed to be, one could argue, they have laid this foundation for the U.S. to go after Maduro personally, and saying they're doing it because in the name of stopping drug flow to the U.S. Okay, let's read a little more of this. 4 sections of this article. It's not a long article, but this is Atlantic Council. Again, I'm going to post a link to this article so you can read it yourself. Atlantic Council has a lot of really good analysis, so check out their website. I just posted the link to the article. Why should the world care about what's happening in Venezuela? Once a thriving democracy, Venezuela is mired in a years-long crisis with regional and global implications. Political repression is prevalent, and nearly 8 million Venezuelans have fled the Maduro regime. Is that about a third of people? What is the Venezuela population now? Or is it more? Maybe it's less. The current population of Venezuela is, as of 2024, 28 million. So about a quarter of people left. Is that right? Or maybe a little more, roughly? Nearly 8 million have fled. In this environment, armed groups and organized criminal structures, including drug trafficking groups, have thrived and benefited from a close relationship with authorities. Jason Marzak of Atlantic Council says, Maduro is not just a danger to the Venezuelan people, but also to the broader region and the world. Maduro has violated Venezuelans' fundamental right to elect their government and has remained in power through a deepening campaign of repression against pro-democracy actors. A testament to this are current and former Venezuelan political prisoners and freed U.S. hostages. The world should know about the abuses they faced at the hands of the Venezuelan government. Jason Marzak says each day under authoritarian rule is a lost day for the Venezuelan people. While there is no easy solution to the decades of democratic erosion, recent developments, including an increased bounty placed on Maduro by the U.S. and the release of American hostages, offer a window of opportunity. Those who want to see Venezuelans free must remain committed to seizing this moment and to standing with those fighting for freedom and democracy in Venezuela. Look, I said this before. Is there a world in which President Trump thinks, hey, if I can get Maduro captured, that would be great for Venezuela. It'd be a great victory for U.S. foreign policy. I don't know if Trump is thinking that. What are the chances of this escalating into military conflict? Jeff Ramsey of Atlantic Council says, the deployment of naval assets is an important show of force, but it does not mean the U.S. will engage in military strikes. This should be a warning to the regime to not detain Venezuelan politician Marina Corina Machado, who, she is the head of the opposition. She was going to run against Maduro, if I remember this right, in 2024, but the regime would not let her run, so they ran another candidate instead. But she is the head of the opposition. Trump came to Jeff Ramsey of Atlantic Council points out Trump came to office promising to end wars, not start them. So he does not think military conflict is likely. He thinks this is being done as a show of force and a warning. He says this would fit with recent actions by Trump that seem to support engagement, including sending special envoy Rick Grenell to meet with Maduro in Caracas in late January. It would also explain why the U.S. continues to seek cooperation with the Maduro regime on deportation flights. There were 9 deportation flights to Venezuela last month, and the vast majority of those were charter flights paid for by the U.S. government and sent directly from U.S. ICE detention facilities in Texas, Florida, and elsewhere to Caracas. These flights would not be possible if there were not regular communication between Washington and Caracas. Interesting. And then finally, the end of the article is, how is Maduro leveraging these developments? Maduro and other Venezuelan officials have blasted the U.S. operation as a mere psychological operation meant to spark regime change, while also noting that military intervention is unlikely. So I will say I disagree with this now, but I'm guessing this article might have been written before. We saw earlier in this broadcast, I showed you a clip several minutes long from last Thursday where the Venezuelan ambassador to the UN said that the US military buildup is being done basically to get Maduro out of power. He said, you can go back and watch it, but if my memory is correct, the basic idea of what the Venezuelan ambassador to the UN said is the U.S. says they're doing this to stop drug flow and as part of an anti-drugs operation. But the Venezuelan UN ambassador said, no, this is not about drugs. It's really the U.S. Getting ready to take military intervention and go after the Maduro regime. So if you want to, you can rewind it, but we showed you the ambassador to the UN from Venezuela saying that. But it's possible that Jeff Ramsey had not even seen that. This had not even happened. That had not even been said by when this article was written. Anyways, Maduro has announced the mobilization of the Bolivarian militia, claiming, I think he claims that 4.5 million citizens are ready to take up arms, even though observers have pointed out that many militiamen are simply pensioners or poor Venezuelans who participate in the program to receive government support. Maduro also ordered 15,000 Venezuelan troops to the Colombian border and imposed a nationwide ban on drone flights. Defense Minister of Venezuela Pedrino said naval vessels will patrol Venezuela's territorial waters, including routes vital to the country's oil exports. Unfortunately, says Jeff Ramsey of Atlantic Council, Maduro appears to be using this moment to rally domestic support while also trying to gin up support throughout the region. This week, the government sent a letter to the UN member states asking them to denounce the U.S. operation as an escalation. Colombia, for its part, has responded by saying the country received personal assurances from U.S. representatives that military intervention in Venezuela is off the table. So what is going to happen? I want to take some more comments from you. Fit over 50. Thanks again to Atlantic Council for letting me show their article. I really appreciate it. If you want to read the articles they have all kinds of analysis on the site of Atlantic Council about different military conflicts and different international news stories. Check them out, atlanticcouncil.org. All right, I want to read some of your comments here. The Bub 26 Strode thinks Maduro is president for life, as was Hugo Chavez. Moto Katana says, release the files, stop the distractions. Fit over 50 says 0% chance Trump invades Venezuela. Trump chickened out last time, remember. Let's see here. Let me take some more comments here. Could we see some kind of, there are guided missile ships, guided missile cruisers, I think 3 of them heading near Venezuela. Could we see some kind of airstrikes? Could we see a special, I'm guessing if America wanted to, they probably could carry out some sort of special operation to take Maduro into custody. Could there ever be that kind of thing that happens? It obviously would be a huge deal. Could that happen? Let's see here. Roger Shoemaker says, I say nothing will happen. It's too obvious. Lenny1777 says, all of you rooting for war, you should go fight Russia and Ukraine and really see war. Chris N says, support for a coup. Wall Street says just sailing around isn't going to cause a regime collapse. Havada Stinker says, how is this America first? Control U.S. borders and waters. Enough. One of our viewers said both could be true. I don't know if the viewer means that the U.S. could both be going after drugs and also going after the Maduro regime. Hey, thanks PA Jeeper 420, that's really nice of you, who says, I don't think we will invade with troops. As you said, we have a bunch of other options, special ops, etc. Don't need to send troops in. Certainly, if the U.S. were to put troops on Venezuelan soil, even briefly, well, you can see a special operation. My point was going to be, if U.S. troops were ever injured or killed on in an operation against Venezuela, that might not be a popular thing politically in the U.S. Gen Xer says, feels like it's all just a warning to Maduro. Some Italian guy says, drugs is a distraction. Checking some more comments here. Our viewer, the Smiling Angel Lowell, says, this is a very big moment in geopolitical history if this occurs. Oh, also, a couple of our viewers have sent me posts from a congressman. Now, I haven't seen any other congressman posting this, but there was a congressman who was posting about this. Where is it here? I know a couple of viewers mentioned this to me last night. Give me a moment. I'm going to pull it up here. Where is it? I'm glad I remembered that. Who was this person? Some people are probably shouting at me in the chat about it right now. Oh, yes. Is it Carlos Jimenez? Yeah, Lowell mentioned this. And some of our other viewers and my followers have mentioned this. U.S. Congressman from Florida, Carlos A. Jimenez. Now, let me show you what he had to say. I'm pulling up some of his posts. So, Carlos Jimenez, U.S. Congressman from Florida, Armed Services, Homeland Security, and Select Committee on China. Here's what he said. A couple of things he said. One thing he posted is, Dictator Nicolás Maduro's narco-terrorist drug cartel is about to get annihilated. America, Venezuela, and the entire hemisphere will benefit enormously from the destruction of Cartel de los Soles. Now remember, the U.S. says that Maduro himself is the head of that cartel. He also posted look at this. He also posted this. If I can do this here. U.S. Congressman from Florida, Carlos Jimenez, posted yesterday, "Our prayers are with the courageous men and women of our armed forces as they approach the coast of Venezuela." He also posted now this is translated. I had this translated, but so it was originally posted in Spanish. But he also posted, look, we will soon see each other in a Caracas free of communist narco dictatorship. By the way, he posed in a picture under this post with Edmundo Gonzalez, who the U.S. considers the rightful winner of the presidential election in Venezuela last year. He also posted, Carlos Jimenez, in the past day. He said, thanks to President Trump, indicted dictator Nicolás Maduro, head of the criminal Cartel de los Soles, has a $50 million bounty. The reward is still available for all interested. He also posted, as you can see, I already showed you that post. So his posts seem to suggest that something's going to happen, but I don't know if that's the case. Oh, I have the poster. Hey, look, it's the reward poster. Let me show you the reward poster, guys. Check this out. Reward. This is the official poster from Department of State and Department of Justice. Increase of up to $50 million for information leading to the arrest and or conviction of the leader of the specially designated global terrorist cartel de los Soles, Nicolás Maduro, Moros, for narco-terrorism, conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, conspiracy to use and carry machine guns and destructive devices in furtherance of a drug crime. Echo says $50 million is crazy. It doesn't say that they want somebody to kill him. It says leading to the arrest and or conviction. Some Italian guy thinks he is toast. Hey, thanks to Mitchell Pilot, who says, anyone want to go to Venezuela with me? I will pay you $25 million, but we gotta bring him back first. Thank you. Hey, Jean-Paul Lachance, thanks for the gift memberships. Thanks to Quick Strike, who thinks that Venezuela, if Maduro is really calling up millions of militia, it will cause major economic dislocations. How long can they sustain it? So I've seen a lot of skepticism among experts that millions of people are really being called up to be in the militia there. Thank you, Smoke and Haze, who says the U.S. should invade North Korea. That'll gain us more respect, in my humble opinion. No sign of that happening anytime soon. North Korea has nuclear weapons, by the way. Thank you, Smoke and Haze. And Addie Martinez, our new member. Oh, Tim Glenn, thank you. Tim says, I meant to say, AI says it's likely the buildup is for future anti-cartel operations in the region involving multiple targets in region, not just Venezuela. Who knows? Maybe that'll happen. Thank you, Tim. Thank you also, AZ Intel's dad, for the gift memberships. Corey Falcon, thank you. Corey thinks this military operation goes on since last year. Well, there have been military carrying out operations, anti-drug operations, but this is a whole new level of force and type of force being brought near Venezuela now. One of the articles we earlier read mentioned that. But thank you, Corey Falcon. I just want to see, I had something else here. Now, there was a video I had from Venezuela. I don't even know what that video is. I showed you that one. Where is it here? What is this video? Now, I haven't even really watched this one yet. I saw a little bit of it, but I want to just show it to you. So this is a video from Venezuela. Okay, so let me just show you this. It's an AFP video from, oops, well, it's not centered. First of all, it's not centered. It's not big enough, and it's not centered. Can we try doing this the right way? Nope, we can't. Oh, I know what's going on. That's what it is. Second day of military recruitment amid U.S. forces deployment to the Caribbean to pressure strongman Maduro. This is a video from Friday, and it's from Caracas. So I guess this is some sort of military recruitment event. I'm guessing maybe put on by the Venezuelan government that happened in Friday in Caracas. Again, I haven't even seen this. I've only seen a little bit of this. I'm just seeing what it is. Let's play a bit. So I just wanted to show you a little of this. Hold on a second. I did this wrong. I was going to put this. This is Friday, not Thursday. But this was a recruitment event in Venezuela on Friday. They have some tents there. I wonder if they're signing people up at the tents. Somebody flying a flag. That's the Venezuelan flag, and let me see what else we can see. Just music there. I can't play the music. Oh, look, there's a list of people. There's a list, and they're checking somebody's ID. This is an AFP video. Again, it's a recruitment event. It says Registro de Miliciano. Is Miliciano military? Look at this. The person's militia. Oh, it's the militia. Miliciano is militia. So this is people it's supposedly people signing up for the Venezuelan militia on Friday. This is from Caracas. Now, I don't know if, the Venezuela said, come film this, and then the government stages this thing. I don't know. I can't speak of what really happened here. So I'm just showing, it's an interesting video. Miles Connors says that guy is 70 years old. He certainly looks older. You can see they have different people signing up people. One of the articles we read spoke about the militia. What did it say? Hold on. Was it the Atlantic Council article that said... The Atlantic Council article said many observers have pointed out many militiamen are simply pensioners or poor Venezuelans who participate in the militia program to receive government support. Oops. I'll show you a little more of this video. Look, it's another table with people signing up to be in the militia. Again, this is a video that AFP took live in Caracas, Venezuela on Friday of a militia sign-up event, recruitment event. Bella says they look fairly older to be signing up. Oh, look at this. I think soberania is sovereignty. Sovereignty above everything. Is that what that means? Sovereignty above everything? Our Spanish-speaking viewers, did I get it right? Sovereignty above everything? Javier says I got it right. See, there you go. It's a picture of Maduro. It says sovereignty above everything. Sovereignty is control over your own affairs. No other country controls you. You control your own country. So there, look, there's a bunch of those flyers on the table there. PLVS Vitra says it means sovereignty above all. The Bub says Maduro's new slogan. Well, there you go. They got flyers printed up. There's some, I mean, again, some of the people signing up in this video certainly are older. Nothing wrong with being old in and of itself, of course, but I mean, I don't know how much help they would be in a big military fight. Oh, look, it says, there's the militia. It says Bolivariana Militia. Republic of Venezuela. As I mentioned, in the Atlantic Council article, it said about Venezuela, it said that Maduro has announced the mobilization of the Bolivarian militia, claiming millions of civilians are ready to take up arms, even though observers have pointed out that many militiamen are simply pensioners or poor Venezuelans who participate in the program to receive government support. But there you see the symbol. This is the Bolivarian Militia of Venezuela, is a militia branch of the National Armed Forces. It says Wikipedia. Anyways. A militia, says Wikipedia, is a military or paramilitary force that comprises civilian members as opposed to a professional standing army of regular full-time military personnel. They may be raised in times of need. This whole video of this. Hey, there's a line of people. Look, there's people waiting in line to sign up. It's an interesting video. Now, is alisto enlist? It says, yo alisto al tricolor. Is tricolor. Now, I don't even know what aliso is. Alisto. Yeah, it can mean I enlist. I just looked it up. Alistar. So it says, I think it says I enlist in the tricolor. Maybe the tricolor stands for the army. Red Alive says, I enlist to the triple color of the Venezuelan flag. So you see people taking pictures in front of that. They're taking selfies. Well, it's not a selfie. Somebody else is taking a picture. Nathan Bell thinks the only reason they're enlisting is for free money. Quite a video here. Look at this. This recruitment event. Anyways, that was an interesting video. I'm glad we got to see that. Confidence in God says it's a lot of people. All right. Let me just talk a little more about this. So obviously we're going to be keeping an eye on this situation. But there was one article we didn't even talk about. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I just want to summarize what's going on. You can see here, U.S. sends 8 warships south on anti-cartel mission unsettling Venezuela. This is from the Washington Post. This is from a few days ago. They says the U.S. is surging 8 warships to the Caribbean and Pacific waters near several Central and South American countries, a significant buildup for a region that has rarely seen such a large presence of U.S. military vessels, and a move that has escalated tensions with nearby Venezuela. A defense official said the ships are part of an enhanced counter-narcotics operation to carry out drug interdiction missions to stop the flow of drugs. The move comes weeks after Trump administration officials said they are evaluating plans for using military force against drug cartels in what would be a major escalation of U.S. involvement in Latin America. In total, 3 destroyers, 2 landing dock ships, an amphibious assault ship, a cruiser, and a littoral combat ship are either in the region or on the way. The destroyers are each carrying detachments of U.S. Coast Guard and law enforcement officials aboard who would carry out detentions or arrests and drug interdictions. The news of a potential buildup of warships in the region has raised suspicions that the U.S. might take military actions against Venezuela a U.S. adversary whose president, Nicolás Maduro, is accused by the Trump administration of running a drug cartel. The U.S. this month raised the bounty for Maduro's capture for the second time this year, doubling it from $25 million to $50 million. Maduro and his officials have announced the mobilization of 15,000 troops to the Colombian border to ensure peace in the area and called on Venezuelans to enlist in militias to fight the empire. Just skipping down here, together the ships provide a wide array of options for the administration, says the Washington Post. The Iwo Jima carries helicopters, the destroyers and cruisers have advanced sensor and surveillance capabilities, as well as cruise missiles capable of striking targets on land. It is rare to see this many assets sent to support U.S. Southern Command, which is sometimes called the Forgotten Area of Responsibility, the Forgotten AOR, because it has struggled amid security demands in the Middle East and the Indo-Pacific to keep a regular U.S. presence of troops or ships patrolling Central and South America. In previous years, a normal presence would have been made up of Coast Guard vessels or occasional littoral combat ship and regular missions by the Navy hospital ships USS Mercy and USNS Comfort. So this is a much bigger and more powerful than normal deployment in this area. I think littoral is on the coast. Littoral. I was saying, I don't know if I was pronouncing it. It's literal. That means on the coast. While it is not exactly clear what type of military action could be taken against drug cartels in the region, says the Washington Post, discussions have ranged from using Navy destroyers to launch missiles at cartel leaders or infrastructure, to partnering more closely with Mexican authorities to target the criminal organizations, the Post reported this month. The U.S. Navy has also sent warships to conduct additional patrols in coastal waters near Mexico. For some in the Venezuelan opposition, the movement of warships appears to signal a Trump administration effort to apply pressure against the Maduro government. As we said earlier, late last month, the Treasury Department accused Maduro of leading the Venezuelan Cartel de los Soles and designated the group a terrorist organization. Ecuador and Argentina, both Trump-friendly governments, also joined and designated the Cartel de los Soles as a terrorist organization. Okay. Despite the, really quick, we said this before, the White House press secretary said, I think it was last week, Trump is prepared to use every element of American power to stop drugs from flooding into our country and to bring those responsible to justice. The Maduro regime is not the legitimate government of Venezuela, she said. It is a narco-terror cartel, and Maduro, it is the view of this administration, is not a legitimate president. He is a fugitive head of this cartel who has been indicted in the U.S. for trafficking drugs into the country. That's what the press secretary said a few days ago, that Maduro is not the legitimate president. He is a fugitive head of this cartel who has been indicted in the U.S. for trafficking drugs into the country. Normally, when you use that kind of language about somebody, you'd think that, oh, well, they're open to capturing him and bringing him back to the U.S., right? I mean, fugitive means fleeing justice, hiding from justice, hiding from law enforcement, or fleeing. Despite the rhetoric, the Trump administration last month did reissue a Biden-era license to U.S. energy giant Chevron to resume oil operations in Venezuela, home to the largest oil reserves in the world. 2 tankers chartered by Chevron reached U.S. waters last week carrying Venezuelan crude, the country's critical export and main source of income. Also, we talked about this, the Trump administration is still using Venezuela to send as a destination for deportation flights. The Trump administration continues to coordinate deportation flights weekly with Venezuelan officials. says the Washington Post. For months, the Maduro government has been accepting an average of 2 deportation flights each week. Now, the Deputy Secretary of State, Christopher Landau, said this month that the Trump administration was very much against regime change in terms of the U.S. basically being the driver. He said, I think you'll be seeing some more actions in the coming days and weeks that will be sending messages. But ultimately, the Venezuelan people have to rise up and claim their own freedom, said the Deputy Secretary of State. He also said recently, this month, he also said, we can't go around the world changing governments at our whim. Jeff Ramsey at the Atlantic Council said the White House is not interested in taking any actions that could affect its energy interests or immigration priorities. He thinks Maduro understands military action is not going to happen in the short term, but thinks that Maduro is aiming to project strength as Trump recalculates his approach to Venezuela. Jeff Ramsey of Atlantic Council said there are some elements of the Venezuelan opposition that are really hopeful the U.S. can provide a magical solution. He says, and I think that is ultimately off the table. So we're going to have to see what happens here. But I'm going to take a few more comments from you guys. What do you think? Is there going to be some kind of military action against Maduro by the U.S.? Could we see, if not, will there be, like the last article said, cruise missiles fired at cartel leaders or cartel facilities? Could we see that happen in Venezuela or other countries? Obviously, it would be a huge deal. Pick Fred E., our viewer, says this is not going to be like Panama. We already had over 10,000 troops stationed in Panama that helped Castro Noriega. I think there were roughly almost 30,000. It was in the high 20,000s of troops for that operation back in 1989, 1990. Fred E. thinks unless there is an internal revolt, this will not be an easy operation. I've seen some analysis saying it would be more difficult to operate there than Panama. Did The Economist say something about that? The Economist has an article, A Surprise U.S. Navy Surge in the Caribbean. And they said that the last major military operation by the U.S. in the region was in 1989, when President George H.W. Bush sent troops to Panama to arrest Manuel Noriega, who had been indicted in the U.S. on drug trafficking charges. But they said in 1989, that force was 20,000 strong, far more than the 4,500 or so now. Venezuela is a far bigger and more complicated country than Panama, says The Economist. The Economist actually said in their article, no one thinks an invasion today is plausible, and that the only goal may be theater. Zain Lasaya says, I'm sure the CIA already has sleeper cells in Venezuela. Oh, thanks, by the way, so much to Ethan Baker for your support. I really appreciate that, Ethan. Patricia Grace, our viewer, says, anything is possible, but I don't see it happening. Juby SZN says, Trump doing stuff for attention? Our viewer, Mandurl X, says, I think it is possible. The timing might be the best it's ever been. I Rule All says theater works sometimes. Nikki Wadley says it's not a war. Just Skin B says he'll get SEAL Team 6 in his sleep. I'm going to do one more poll question. It's pretty specific. Will U.S. capture Maduro and bring him to U.S. to face trial? It's a very specific question. Sorry, Facebook, polls are not working there, but I'll ask. And I can't, I have no way of asking them on X, but I'll ask it on YouTube and Twitch. So I'm thinking, you know, could we see some kind of special forces operation where they capture him? The White House press secretary called him a fugitive last week. All right, let's see what you guys had to say about this. Mini High says, with this administration leading the operation, heck no. 46% of our viewers on YouTube thinks the U.S. will capture Maduro and bring him to the U.S. 54% say no. How about over on Twitch? What do they say about this? They're more pessimistic. 23% on Twitch say yes, 77% say no. Hamter Krupke thinks they will strike when least expected. Havada Stinker says might capture, if so, won't bring to USA. Mr. Bigley Uncredible says maybe someday, but not during this. One of our viewers, Context Clueless, says, has anyone gotten a message on Signal about what their plans might be? Lola Maria thinks he will be captured. Goobert on Twitch thinks YouTube is delusional. Stream the Meme says Trump now has his baked-in distraction ready to go. Anytime he has domestic issue, he can just escalate these things a bit more. Anami thinks the U.S. is getting involved where they're not needed. Thanks to voting in the poll. All right, hang on. Is there anything else I want to show you about this? Let's see here. Again, Reuters says 7 U.S. warships along with 1 nuclear-powered fast attack submarine are either in the region or expected to be there in the coming week. By the way, according to Reuters, one of the ships in the operation is the USS Iwo Jima, which is right here on Wikipedia. A Wasp-class amphibious assault ship of the U.S. Navy, commissioned in 2001. That can bring, I assume if it's an amphibious assault ship, it can bring soldiers to shore. I think there's 2 other. The USS Fort Lauderdale and the USS San Antonio might also be amphibious assault ships. Reuters says they are part of the buildup. Yes, the USS San Antonio is an amphibious transport dock or landing platform dock. And then the USS Iwo Jima we mentioned, and then what was the third one? The USS Fort Lauderdale. That is an amphibious transport dock ship of the U.S. Navy. An amphibious transport dock is a warship that embarks, transports, and lands elements of a landing force for expeditionary warfare missions. So just to point this out, I believe other outlets are reporting these ships being involved as well. But these are 3 large amphibious warfare ships. So, I mean, you know, are those needed for this anti-drug operation? Could we see forces go on land and attack cartels on land? I don't know. But those are 3 of the ships, reportedly, involved. Yes, AP also says 3 amphibious assault ships with more than 4,000 sailors and Marines will be entering the waters off of Latin America by next week. The USS Iwo Jima, the USS San Antonio, the USS Fort Lauderdale. AP says Pentagon officials have refused to say exactly where those 3 ships are heading. Martin says, make Venezuela free again. MAGA Man says, if we're not sending a U.S. carrier, just relax. I mean, this is a significant force. The New York Times had an article with the headline a week ago, is the Trump administration building up to a military confrontation with Venezuela? Matt Dog says this will be another Grenada. Grenada? Man, we'll have to see what happens with this. What is the latest from the White House? They're not saying that much. I mean, I read you the quote from last week from Carolyn Levitt, the press secretary, who said the Maduro regime is not the legitimate government of Venezuela. It is a narco-terror cartel, and Maduro, it is the view of this administration, is not a legitimate president. He is a fugitive head of this cartel who has been indicted in the United States for trafficking drugs into this country. I'm not aware that President Trump has posted much about this. We'll see if we hear more about it this week. Truckee says, that is a lot of money. They did it to the guy in Panama. Jane Jones says, even if the Venezuelan cartels are eliminated, American drug addicts will still do drugs. Oh, Jen mentioned to me that the Pentagon Pizza Report, which our viewer Sean TV talked about earlier, is at Penn Pizza Report. Says that the Domino's closest to the Pentagon is reporting slightly above average traffic. They look at pizza orderings in the area of the Pentagon to try to get hints about whether some military action might be imminent. I hope I'm summarizing the feed correctly. Yeah. It's at Penn Pizza Report on X if you want to follow it. Our viewer Lowell thinks that if Maduro were to be removed from power, Cuba would be, it would really impact Cuba because they're heavily reliant on Venezuela assistance for basic essentials. That's what Lowell said. I just looked. I will say I just looked up online. I have to look up and confirm how much is that's the case. How much aid Venezuela gives Cuba. It's a little bit off top. Well, I don't know if I can find you a quick answer on this. One article I found said oil shipments are the primary form of support. I don't know. Also, there's an article I found online which said that, well, I don't even know how current that is. You can read, there's an article on Wikipedia, Cuba-Venezuelan relations, if you want to check out that. It says the bilateral relation includes development aid, joint business ventures, large financial transactions, exchange of energy resources and information technology, and cooperation in the fields of intelligence service and military. Thanks, Lowell, for writing. All right. Hold on a second here. Guys, we are going to have to see what happens here. I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea. I mean, it's certainly a sizable naval force. Is it what is it going to be doing there? We'll have to just see. We'll have to just see. I will reiterate what I have said, what I said at the start of the stream. There's a number of experts out there who think there's no chance at an invasion, and they don't think military action against the Maduro regime is likely. But who knows? Walter Wynn thinks nothing's going to happen. Rogue says need troop carriers to invade. Rogue, you must have missed the part I talked about 10 minutes ago, how 3 of the ships are amphibious assault ships that are heading to the region. Anyways, so I think we're going to start wrapping up this stream, but it's, I think, a very interesting thing to watch. Some of the reports I mentioned to you said some ships are arriving this week. I think those amphibious assault ships, the AP report said that the amphibious assault ships are going to be arriving this week, right? Yes. AP said 3 amphibious assault ships would be entering the waters off of Latin America by next week, an official said, with more than 4,000 sailors and Marines. So we will certainly be keeping an eye on this. Maybe we won't hear much about it. Maybe we will. Will there be U.S. military action against cartels in Venezuela or other Latin American countries? Will there be U.S. military action against the Maduro regime in Venezuela? We'll have to wait and see. Okay. Sarah Brown says, no one is invading with 4,500. Okay. Connor Anderson thinks they will go in and do a surgical strike on the cartels and get out. All right, guys. So we're going to start wrapping up this stream, but I will certainly keep an eye on this. If there's big developments, we will come on the air and talk about it. And I will post developments on this and other stories on my X account, which is @Lookner. You can follow me over there for breaking news, @Lookner on X. And subscribe, follow the channel. Agenda Free TV, we cover all kinds of live breaking news without an agenda. Agenda Free TV. Subscribe and follow. Turn on the notifications. I don't know when big news is going to happen. I can't tell you in advance every time we're coming on the air. But, well, I can tell you, once breaking news happens, I can tell you when we're coming on the air. And a big way we tell you is through our notifications. So sign up for our free notification system. It's free. You sign up once. You get sent a notification whenever we go live. We do it through Discord. It's the most reliable notifications for this channel. The mods will post a link in the chat to sign up for the notifications. Also, in the description of this video on YouTube and Facebook, you can just find the notification sign up link there. But sign up for the notifications. I really appreciate you guys tuning in for this stream. Also, a number of you have been sending me comments and questions and letting me read them on the air, sending me news links, talking in the chat. So thanks for being here for the broadcast. And a huge thanks to our moderators who have been moderating. You guys are awesome. The mods are the ones who allow us to even have chat rooms. For example, Janet B and BZ on YouTube. Shout out to you for moderating there. Linda Belk, Larry, and Misha on X. Over on Facebook, Margaret Riley, Kay Lowery Body, Paul Anderson, Christina Neal, Shannon Davis Hughes, thank you, and all of our Twitch moderators, 13 Alamo, Bash and Girl, Big Ball of Yarn, Good Luck Duck, LB Prairie Dawn, Matthew Kohai 3, Papa Bear, Surly Dev, and all of our other moderators. Huge thanks to our moderators. I think I owe some people thanks for donating. Thanks to everybody who donated during the broadcast. It's so nice of you guys. That is what allows the channel to exist and buy news footage and stuff like that. So I really appreciate your support for the channel. I think I owe some more thank yous. Fox250R, thanks for the gift membership. N3 Honest, we did 2 polls already. N3 Honest, we did 2. That's it for today. But you might have written that before. But thank you, N3 Honest. Shadow6530 for being a member. Echo, thanks for being a new member. Mark Washburn. Mark, I haven't covered. We didn't do a stream about that Greenland story. Mark mentioned a Greenland story. No, we're not. We have not covered that yet. Maybe one day we'll do another Greenland stream. I don't know if we've done a whole stream devoted to Greenland. Mark asked about this story. Denmark summons U.S. envoy over suspected influence operations in Greenland. Denmark's foreign minister has summoned the top U.S. diplomat in Copenhagen over intelligence reports alleging covert influence operations by U.S. citizens in Greenland that aim to whip up opposition to Danish rule. I'm not getting into this right now. Public broadcaster DR, citing unnamed sources, reported that at least 3 Americans with ties to President Trump's administration were suspected of involvement in the efforts, which also sought to promote Greenland's secession from Denmark to the U.S. Anyways, you can Google this story. That's from last Wednesday. That's from Reuters. Thank you to Mark Washburn for your support. Pros Intros, thank you for your support. And Mitchell Pilot and everybody else. Matthew Kohai 3, thanks for the gift sub, Matthew Kohai 3. I missed that before. And CC on Twitch. And Wall Street for the gift sub. Somehow I got really behind on the thank yous on Twitch. That's not good. Wall Street gave out 6 gift subs on Twitch. So nice of you. I don't know if it wasn't updating, because I thought I was looking at it. I think it wasn't updating for some reason, or I didn't update it. The Twitch notifications, Running Things, thanks for subscribing. Yarmy Scoop, thanks for subscribing. Spectre EH. If you ever want to support the channel, you go to agendafree.tv, agendafree.tv. But thanks so much for all your support. Really appreciate it. Hey, another good way to find out when we're live is follow us on X. If you're on X, @agendafreetv. You can follow us there. I always post when we go live, a heads up there. I post updates about the channel there @agendafreetv. Also, Thanks to our Discord mods, and really appreciate it. And we have a Discord chat. You can chat with other viewers for free when we're not on the air. The Discord chat, check it out. It's free. The link is the same as the link to the free notifications. Check out the Discord chat. And also, for those of you who watch on YouTube, I would suggest turning on the YouTube notifications. But if you're going to do that, what I would do, well, it's a little confusing how to do that, to turn on the YouTube notifications. A little tricky. What you need to do if you want to turn on the YouTube notifications is you need to subscribe to the channel. Oops, I didn't do this right. Let's try this again. You need to subscribe to the channel, then click the bell, and then choose all notifications. So subscribe to the channel, click the bell, and choose all notifications. That is how to turn on the YouTube notifications. Okay. Hey, thanks also to I Love Cookies for the gift membership. So nice of you, I Love Cookies. Thank you. Thanks to our Twitch subscribers who support the channel, like Artful Nothing, Matthew Kohai 3, Wall Street, Shaggy, and let's see here. Allistic, Billy Joe, thank you. Douthis, Chi-Town Bear, Aloso 1375, and let's see who else. Bastion Girl, thank you. And all of our other Twitch subscribers, thanks so much. Running Kings, Yarny Scoop, and others. Thanks, Twitch subscribers. Notorious Rob, thank you. Also, our Facebook subscribers who support the channel, like Robert Real II, Sharon Class and Goslin, Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley, Lou Knight, Diane Allworth. Thanks for subscribing over there. All of our other subscribers on Facebook too. Chuck Mosca as well. And Jennifer Ellers. And our YouTube members like Ken Lance, thank you for being a member. CAC813, Aaron S., Patricia Grace, Rizzo, J.K. Sinar, Chung Peter, Roger Shoemaker, UV Lightning, Molly O., Evelyn in Maine, Aaron S., I Love Cookies, JPT, Hermit Ersatz, Jared, Megatron, Better Bite, Jeff Hubner, John Paul Lachance, and thanks for more memberships, John Paul Lachance, really appreciate that. Nikki Wadley, Donna Smith, Thomas Darwin, Confidence in God, and all of our other YouTube members. Thanks so much. Clayton Roberts, Sagging, Zebra 2, Neeby. Thanks to all of our members and our other viewers as well. Thanks to everybody who is watching. Tater Tot. Our viewer, one of our viewers, Isaiah47, thanks for watching. Cindy Ace says, September, a month to remember. Juliana Martin, Karen Appleyard, thanks for watching as well. Over there on Facebook, Paula Thompson, Am Spencer, Billy Anderson, Rita Evans Lang. We are wrapping up this stream. D. George, thanks for watching. Kinetic Pause. Dirty Toxin. Mr. Grinch. Substandard Loser. And Los Gatos de Wilson. Jim Gizmo, and all of our other viewers on Twitch and Facebook and YouTube. Thank you for watching. So that is it for now. We have been bringing you a live update on the U.S. major naval deployment near Venezuela that's going on, and talking about could the U.S. invade Venezuela or take some other military action against Venezuela and the Maduro regime. We will have to see. We will have to see. I will certainly cover it if we have big developments here. So that is it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you soon with more live breaking news coverage right here at Agenda Free TV.